Hello out there from the Badger Rock Greenhouse. We are here kicking off our holiday workshop series with a workshop on how to grow a delicious, super nutritious crop inside your house in the wintertime. So what we're going to talk about how to grow is microgreens. And microgreens are amazing because really what they are is just a little sprouted seed. You don't actually eat the seed, you just eat the sprout. So people sometimes get confused between sprouts and microgreens. Sprouts are when you take a seed and you sprout it, so you keep it wet, and then the little seedling starts to grow from the seed. And then when you harvest it and use it, you are actually eating the seed and the sprout together. Microgreens, you're growing little tiny seedlings, but you are snipping them off the surface of the soil. So you are not eating the seed, you're just eating the stem and the leaves of the little sprouts. The difference between those things is important to know, and it's also an important food safety thing to know about, because microgreens are actually less potentially hazardous by a lot than sprouts because of that reason. That little space between the seed and the sprout is a space where there's a lot of moisture and you have to keep it warm to grow. And so that is a little area that can harbor different bacteria like E. coli. And so it's really important when you're growing sprouts at home to make sure you do it very safely. Microgreens too, but they're less fussy. So we're going to get started right away. They're so easy to grow. They're so fast. They need very little space, and they need not a whole lot of attention. And if you think about a seed, so let's take a sugar snap pea seed. If any of you have ever had pea shoots, that is a type of a microgreen where you're sprouting the little pea seed, and then the leaves start to grow and the little seedling starts to grow, but you snip it off before it grows into a big vine with peas growing on it, and you eat the actual shoot. That's called a microgreen, pea shoot microgreens. So if you think about the nutritional value in a microgreen, think about all the value of a whole plant grown from a seed packed into a tiny little seedling, and you're consuming that. So they're super nutrient dense, full of vitamins and minerals. Super good for you, super fast to grow, and I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so the first thing that you're going to need is some flats to grow in, or some kind of containers. You want to make sure that they are clean, because the soil itself can also hold microorganisms if you are growing in a dirty container, or if you use soil that has things like manure in it for fertilizer. You want to avoid soil like that for growing microgreens, because you don't want any of that kind of animal byproduct stuff potentially contaminating your microgreens. So you can just use a potting mix or a soil mix, as long as it doesn't have any kind of manure or animal products in it for fertilizer. And what you want to do is start with a moist soil. And you need these growing flats or containers. We just use growing flats, the same flats we would use for growing seedlings to plant out on our farm in the spring. And you really only need an inch or two of soil in here. You can also grow microgreens on what's called soilless medium, so things like vermiculite or perlite. The downside of growing microgreens on medium like that is there is not a lot of nutrients. There are no nutrients, I should say, in vermiculite and perlite. So those little seedlings don't have always have the nutrient boost they need to get really healthy and grow fast. So I just have filled this little tray up to about I would say, an inch to 2 inches of soil. You'll notice that on the bottom, I have a tray that has no holes in it. The top is a tray that has holes in the bottom. You want to have the soil in a tray that has drainage holes, so that you don't accidentally waterlog your soil, create conditions where microorganisms can grow, and also potentially like drown your seeds. But you do want to put your holy growing tray in one without holes, so that you can add a little water to the bottom of the tray to kind of water those microgreens from below. So once we have this all set up, the next step is to get your seeds. So some of my favorite kinds of microgreens to grow are cabbage family plants. Those are things like broccoli, kale, radishes, mustards. All of those cabbage family plants, or they're called brassicas, is another word for them, grow really, really fast. They're super nutrient dense and they have a really nice taste. So you might be able to have microgreens ready within a week if you stick with those kind of crops. So you can also buy seed that is actually for growing microgreens. This is called a mild micro mix, and it's made of a mix of different brassicas, so that same plant family that I mentioned. And if you get a micro mix, you know that those seeds are going to be clean. There's going to be no contaminants in those seeds, so that you know that you're good to go. Look at how little those seeds are, but each seed will grow into one sprout. So you want to, when you're growing microgreens, pack in way more seeds than you would if you're growing seeds for an individual seedling. But you don't want to pack them so packed that you end up wasting seed or having them so close together that they're super crowded. So I can include in the comments after we post this video a little like calculator to figure out how much seed you should use in different size containers so that y'all can have a way to figure that out at home. But if you don't want to mess around with that too, you can honestly just sprinkle the seeds on the top of the soil like so. So you want to firm the soil a little bit without packing it. You don't want to you don't want it to be super compact because you want those little new roots to be able to grow down into the soil. But you don't want it so loose and fluffy that the seeds don't make good soil contact. So I'm just going to take these seeds and I'm going to sprinkle them onto the soil. A little goes a long way, y'all. So really, like, you need less seed than you think. So I'm going to get these going. Just sprinkle them on there. Simple as that. If you can try to get them pretty even so you don't have giant clumps and then bare spots, you will have a better microgreen harvest. So I've sprinkled those seeds on there, and then I'm going to just gently pat those seeds onto the soil so they have a nice firm contact with the soil. Like I said, without compacting it really hard. And then once they are planted, you just need to water them. You can use a spray bottle if you're doing this at home, or if you have a hose and it's city water, you can use a hose, just put it on the mist function. So I would just turn it to a mist, give them a little drink, and you're going to want to water these seeds 1 to 2 times a day until they sprout, but you don't want to overwater them. So just kind of keep an eye on your soil. If it's moist, it really doesn't need to be watered. If it's starting to dry out, definitely water it 1 to 2 times a day until the seeds sprout, and then you can dial back your watering to maybe once a day or once every couple days. Just pay attention. It's going to depend on how humid the spaces that you're growing them in too. Ideally, you want about 40 to 60% humidity. So a lot of people in the wintertime will grow them in their kitchen because that is often the most humid room in the house because of all the cooking and things that happen in a kitchen. And you want them like between around 65 degrees, 65 to 75. So about the temperature your house is perfect. Once you have them planted, you are going to actually cover them with another flat for, I would say, between 2 to 4 days. Blocking the light out like that makes the seeds, once they start to sprout, really vigorous. So once you pull this off in 2 to 4 days and the seeds are germinated, they will just, they'll grow really fast, reaching for the lights. And so we cover them up for the first couple days. Make sure again that your flat is clean if you're doing this. And then once you do uncover them, they're going to need 6 to 8 hours of light a day. So if you have a sunny south-facing window, you might be able to get away with just sunlight. If you don't, you might have to get yourself a grow light to put over your microgreens. And you really want it to be about 5 to 6, the grow light to be about 5 to 6 inches above the seeds to have like the maximum happy place for the seedlings to grow with the light. So it's as easy as that. You get your soil, you gently pack it in there, you sprinkle your seeds on top, you gently push them into the soil, then you pop a top on it for, I would say, 2 to 4 days, and then you take it off, give them 6 to 8 hours of light a day. Make sure you keep them moist, watering once a day, twice if needed, once every couple days once they start sprouting. And how you know when to harvest is each little seedling, when it starts to grow, will make 2 what are called seed leaves. Those are cotyledons or seed leaves, and they look different than the mature true leaves of the plant. So after those little cotyledons show up, don't harvest them yet. Wait, because then you will see eventually 2 true leaves start to form. And once those true leaves are formed and open, and your seedling is about 1 to 2 inches tall, you can take some scissors and just snip the microgreen off the top of the soil, and you can eat them and enjoy them. So the other thing to know about microgreens is water is really important. So if you don't have city water, you need to test your water to make sure that it doesn't also have microorganisms in it that could contaminate your microgreens. If you have city water, you're good to go because city water is clean water without microorganisms in it. So just make sure you're watering with clean water, you're using clean soil, you are not overwatering, and oh my gosh, within 7 days for a microgreen, up to I think 21 days, about 3 weeks for the microgreens that take the longest. That's your range of growing depending on what you're growing. So you can have just a continuous harvest of delicious microgreens all winter long. Put a little salad dressing on them, mix them up in something delicious that you want to eat. Just pop them in your mouth and nosh on them raw, and it will be a really, really great vitamin boost for you in the dead of winter when it's harder to come by fresh, locally grown produce. So yeah, I think that we're going to be starting to grow microgreens with our classes this week. And if you try it at home, let us know how it went. I'll include a couple resource documents in the comments so y'all can learn more about microgreens and dig into it a little deeper if you want to on your own. And otherwise, I would say happy growing. And we will catch y'all next time.